comes to veterans issues, there are many organizations that approach a variety of issues, be it medical, physical, preparing houses, helping them with income. There are so many things out there. Find a new organization. I put them through a pretty rigorous vetting process. And I can't say thank you enough to my colleagues and Wendy over at Wounded Warriors Family Support as we have put this organization that now sits in the studio with me through a rigorous process. They've met the standard, so here they are on the show. Veterans medical debt is the issue, and RIP Medical Debt has a new initiative to help veterans with their medical debt. Military personnel, as you know, and as they say on their website, puts their lives on the line for us every day and at no small cost. Veterans are not prepared often for civilian life, and they struggle with the issues that come along with reintegration, even post-military especially, such as personal finances. Do they get the right job? Do they have a career path? Or unemployment, and even to the extremes of homelessness. A large amount of veterans' burden, their burden is in the form of medical debt. In 2010, an estimated 1.3 million uninsured veterans across the United States found their out-of-pocket medical expenses far exceed their disposable income. RIP has a new campaign. The campaign helped veterans burdened by medical debt that they cannot repay, and they are also a 501c3, filed for 501c3 status. So let's talk to Harold and Craig, Harold Ashton and Craig Antico, two veterans of different business backgrounds who are now in the business of helping our veterans. Guys, great to see you. Harold, you should have been through the phone calls today. Craig acquitted himself rather well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and it's Jerry. Harold is my legal born name, and I couldn't stand it, so my mother started calling me Jerry, and it stuck with me ever since. So it's Jerry Ashton. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go with Jerry Ashton. All right, so Jerry Ashton and Craig Antico. All right, let's get right to it. Eligibility. Who's eligible? Veterans and their families. First to you, Craig.
Yeah, veterans are also active duty military too, so it's anybody in the military or those that have been discharged. We like to have it where it's an honorable discharge, not just anybody, but we're able to do this for any person that's been in the military and is either active or, retired.
Right, so someone who is active duty also qualifies for this program potentially, and of course for our veterans. The vetting process, gentlemen, I mean, you just mentioned something very important. There are different types of discharges, general discharges, honorable discharge, of course, being the highest among them. So what about the veterans process or the vetting process? How do you determine if they're a veteran, if they're eligible, or where the family's involved?
Yeah, we have an organization that helps us with this. It's called ID Me. And they're able to take portfolios that we're evaluating and actually tell us which accounts in those portfolios are veterans. And we're able to do this on a bulk process. It's one of the only, I think there's only 3 companies in the world that are able to do this. So we found a vetting process in one company.
But Jerry, why is the bulk process important to this?
Well, we almost have to go back to how in the hell did the vet get involved with medical debt to begin with? A lot of civilians, a lot of people out there believe that once you've joined and once you've served, that when you come home, that in some fashion you're going to be taken care of. That's not the case. In fact, what passes for medical help, the nearness of a VA hospital, all this impacts the ability of a vet to go to someone who will accept him under the terms of the Veterans Administration and give free medical services. That doesn't happen. In fact, Craig, how many dollars of unpaid debt did we find?
Well, we found $1.9 billion of medical debt for active duty and veterans.
In the United States.
In the United States that we can buy right now.
And these are people that meet that, hopefully meet that standard that
no,
you've
it's
set.
interesting. Now,
so now, is this catastrophic medical? Is this income? Is it based on need? What are the circumstances?
Well, what we do is we first find if they are a vet. Okay, that's the first process. Find if they're a vet, because we have this $1.9 billion. And we will then, out of that, we will then put it through our next criteria, which is to say, are they making 2 times the federal poverty level or below? So are they resource challenged? Or are they in hardship? They might be making more than 2 times the federal poverty level, but if they're spending 5% or more of their income, gross income, on medical expenses, they qualify under our plan.
All right, so someone qualifies for this plan. When it comes to medical, when it comes to dealing with anything that's that kind of information, you're now talking about not only a veteran or possibly an active duty person. You're talking about HIPAA. You're talking about protection of information. And Jerry, to any American, but especially when it comes to our military and their families.
When you take a look at a veteran, and we're talking about whether they can afford that bill, how does it impact them? If anybody has a $5,000 or $10,000 bill, and it's not that difficult to run that up anymore, you're in hardship. Now, it really doesn't land in our world until it goes through something called the debt collection industry. For example, the hospital or the doctor who's not getting paid will then take that account and either sell it or assign it to a collection agency or a debt buyer. When they sell the debt, that debt buyer then goes to the collections industry and sells it to those people so that they can get on the phone and chase you down for the money owed.
And now you've got some guy or girl calling you, threatening lawsuits, threatening to garnish wages, do whatever. And look, let's kind of put this out there on the table. This is often the seedy side of life. And here you've got someone who, one, our military doesn't get paid enough. They come out. They're veterans. Maybe it's tough to get a job, certainly in this economic environment.
Very high,
unemployment is high. So if they've met these standards, honorably discharged, they are, they're in the debt collection process. How exactly does your company take the next step? As I understand it, you buy the portfolios. Explain what that process is.
What we do is we go to hospitals. It depends on how do we want to handle it. If there's an organization in New York, for example, that wants to help their vets in New York, for example, we would focus our attention in that area. And we'd go to those hospitals or those buyers of the debt, because the hospitals sell that debt to debt buyers. That's something that we've been involved with for almost 30 years. What we do is we will identify every debtor that has medical debt, that's a veteran, and then put it through our next cycle, which is to say how much money do they make? We simulate their income. How much of this debt, as a percentage of the total that they make, is it over 5%? So we'll be able to cull that data.
Right.
And then we buy the portfolio.
I think that the real question that you would have is, how much do you pay for that debt? And when you pay for that debt, who owns the debt? When a debt buyer sells the debt to a collection agency, the collection agency owns that debt forever. They can work it literally for years, and they will. What we've done at RIP Medical Debt is said, enough of this. What we want to do is we want to step in the middle between the collection agency and the debt sellers. And we say, we'll take that debt and we'll pay the same amount of money that the collection agency will, except for one difference. We're going to put a stake through its heart. We're going to get rid of that debt. It'll never see a collector's desk ever again.
Once you do that, and by the way, I applaud you for this effort, and we're going to talk about what needs to happen to help you in this effort, because everyone listening can help. Donations are accepted, and of course, this is something that obviously I don't see the two of you shelling out of your pockets. Hey, I'm going to buy $1 billion worth of debt. But once that's done, you go and you buy this debt, you buy this portfolio, you've culled the right people, and you've driven a stake through the heart of the debt. Do you report this? How is this reported?
Yeah.
We have the credit bureaus. You're trying to keep someone with good credit rating.
What we do is when we buy the debt, we make sure that the seller of the debt, whether it be the hospital, the doctor, or a debt buyer themselves, or a collection company actually takes that off of their credit report before they sell it to us. If we find that it is on the credit report, we have the ability to post it to the credit bureaus and make sure that it's cleared.
Look, this is a laudable effort beyond belief. And when we talked earlier on the phone, I learned more and more in the last few days about this and how it works. Organizations, partnerships. I mean, there are a lot of organizations in the veteran space for a variety of reasons, organizations I work with. And, this is another aspect of the issue in the veterans community. So are you partnered with or looking for partner organizations, Jerry?
All the above. We know this much. For example, if there's an organization that deals with homelessness, there's no doubt that the person who's homeless isn't able to pay their doctor bills as well. There could be a percentage of the monies that they are spending to help someone homeless, where they could also take off of their back this burden of medical debt and phone calls on their cell phone because they're not getting any calls at home. But if you take a look at someone dealing with PTSD, or you take a look at some organizations attempt to go to the doctor and they go to the hospital, they attempt to negotiate that debt to try to get the doctor or the hospital to take less for it. They are important. They're doing a good job. At some point in time when they can't afford to buy that or they can't talk them out of it, that's when it goes to the agency. That's what we want to stop from happening. We'll stand in between where that organization is that we will partner with and have them fund us. And here's the key part. This is where you get bang for the buck. How much do you think a bill collector will pay for a $5,000 surgical bill? Well, they will pay anywhere from $50 to $100. A penny on the dollar. They will pay for your pain. And when they pay that $50 for that $5,000 surgery bill, they're not calling you up for $50. They want the entire $5,000, and they want it on their desk in their office Friday at 5 o'clock, or they're going to go shoot your dog or do some other terrible thing.
So now we've got this, and by the way, you're a private concern. RIP Medical Debt is a company, not just in the veteran space, but you've expanded to this. And for everyone who wants to look at this, you can go to ripmedicaldebt.org. When you go there, there's a veterans tab. Can people apply? Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, what we like to look at it as a random act of kindness for veterans out there with medical debt. If I was able to find, and not able to buy yet, but if I was able to find over 1.5 million veterans in active duty and find their debt, that's just extraordinary. I mean, imagine how much debt there really is if I found it. If I found almost $2 billion of medical debt that's unpayable, and those collection agencies and debt buyers are still trying to collect it. The VA, for example, people go out of the VA, veterans go out of the VA at a rate of 1 million visits a month. They go outside of the VA because they cannot get
They
seen.
can't get into the VA. They can't get seen.
They're
That's another problem.
Geographically undesirable. They're Upper Mashed Potato Falls, Idaho. Not too many VA hospitals around there.
Now, what's happening is that these debts are accumulating. Now, if you go to an outside hospital instead of the VA, it's just like you and me going with our Blue Cross Blue Shield. They've got their TRICARE, but they've got their copays. They've got their deductibles. They've got their coinsurance. This stuff is adding up at a prodigious rate. And it's no different than what's happening across the country. We just can't focus on everybody. I mean, there's billions and billions of dollars out there. That's why we've decided to focus on the veterans, because people want to help the veterans. We all want to help everybody. But
So how can they help? I mean, I see a donate tab on your website. You've sent me the papers that you filed for your 501c3 for this aspect of your operation.
they can go to the website and they can decide, do you want this donation to go strictly to veterans and their families? Or do you want to help the general public? I mean, there are so many people that are having problems. If you look at it, over 15 million people in the United States have credit marks on their credit report, and the only negative one they have is a medical debt. and it's causing them a 30 to 100 point drop in their FICO score, which could stop them from getting a job, can stop them from getting a house, can stop them from getting a car. I mean, we're talking about a major problem, and it's the same thing for the veterans. This is just enabling us to focus our efforts in an area that people want to help. Now, we've done this over the last 3 years. We've abolished over $40 million. This is our first foray into doing this just for the vets in the military. But it's needed. It's needed just like it's needed all over, but we might as well focus on the veterans and the active duty.
Well, kudos to you, gentlemen. Jerry, see, I got that right this time, not Harold. Jerry, Ashton, Craig, Antico, RIP Medical Debt. The website is ripmedicaldebt.org. There's a veterans tab. There's information there. I've spoken to you. I've spoken to you longer today than we'd have to do 2 hours of radio to actually get through the vetting process. It was actually fabulous,
the questions that you and Wendy asked. I mean, those are the kind of questions that we can answer. If someone calls us, I'll talk to them and answer all their questions. I mean, this is that important to us.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, and on behalf of all the veterans out there and all the active duty and their families who deal with a lot of these problems, yet another organization trying to do the right thing. The website, ripmedicaldebt.org. Go ahead and check it out. The information is there. There's a form you can fill out to submit yourself to the company, and then you'll begin your process of vetting that potential service member or veteran.
Yes, thanks
Jerry,
so much,
Greg, thank you.
Thank you.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb.